Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, a podcast about gardening, botanical history, and literature. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and today is September 14th. Today in botanical history, we celebrate a poet, an English garden designer, and a garden historian. We'll hear a fun excerpt about calculating cold weather from a Pulitzer Prize-winning play by David Auburn. And we grow that garden library today with a Bible on winter growing and harvesting, so year-round gardening from the master himself, Eliot Coleman. And then we'll wrap things up with some thoughts on transplanting, the toll it takes on plants and us. But first, here's today's curated news. Today's curated news comes to us from the florist Nikki Tibbles. This is an article that was featured in House and Garden, and Nikki walks us through her tips on how to arrange hydrangeas. Such a timely topic. I don't know about you, but my garden right now is overflowing with all kinds of hydrangea. They really do steal the show this time of year. I can't think of any other bloom that packs as much punch in the month of September as a hydrangea. Now, Nikki is a London florist, and her shop is called Wild at Heart, and she spends a lot of time working with hydrangeas, and I especially paid close attention to some of her tips and tricks for working with hydrangea. First of all, she talks about picking the right container. Hydrangeas are a substantial flower, and so you want to have a container that's got a little heft to it. She suggests using a classic bell jar, or you can even recycle something substantial like a milk churn or an old pitcher. When it comes to preservation, Nikki recommends removing the leaves and hanging the blossoms upside down to dry. That's one of the techniques that you can use to preserve as much color in the bloom as possible. Now, one other aspect that Nikki shares with us is how hydrangeas figure in to the language of flowers. They definitely have some symbolism. And here she shares an old myth from Japan. Apparently, one time there was an emperor who had fallen in love with a woman, and he had somehow made her angry. And so to apologize, he sent her a bouquet of blue hydrangea. That blue color is a clue to the recipient that they are very important to you. In fact, in some Asian countries, if you send blue hydrangeas, you're conveying that the person is as important to you as the beat of your own heart. Very dear. All right, now if you would like to check out this article by Nikki for yourself, all you need to do is head on over to the Facebook group for the show and search for the word hydrangea. And then this post by Nikki Tibbles will pop right up. If you'd like to join the Facebook group, all you need to do is head on up to the search bar at the top where you'd search for an old friend and type in the words Daily Gardener Community, and then answer a handful of questions, and I'll admit you into the group. I'll see you in there. It's time for today's botanical history. Here's botanical history for today, September 14th. Today in 1613, Sir Thomas Overbury, the English poet and writer, died. He apparently was poisoned when he was a prisoner in the Tower of London. He once wrote, "The man who has nothing to boast of but his ancestors is like a potato. The only good belonging to him is underground." And it was on this day in 1699 that the English garden designer, writer, architect, and artist Batty Langley was baptized. His elaborate garden designs often featured mazes, and if you see one online, you'll probably find them mesmerizing. A jack of all trades, he offered his wealthy clients a myriad of garden features to choose from. He offered grottos, baths, fountains, cascades, garden seats, structures, and even sundials. Batty sought to soften Baroque gardens, which feature formality and geometric shapes, with more natural landscapes. In fact, George Washington was a fan of his work, and he ordered himself a copy of Batty's New Principles of Gardening, which was published in 1728. Washington kept a copy in his library at Mount Vernon. Batty Langley once wrote, "There is nothing more agreeable in the garden than good shade, and without it, a garden is nothing." And today we wish a happy birthday to the English illustrator, food writer, and garden historian Susan Campbell, whose artistic name was Susan Benson. Over her long career, she eventually became an expert on the history of walled kitchen gardens. She spent 4 decades researching and writing about over 700 walled kitchen gardens in England and around the world. In 2001, she established the Walled Kitchen Garden Network with fellow garden historian Fiona Grant. Recently, she studied the garden belonging to Charles Darwin's father, Robert Darwin. In a 1984 interview, she reflected on the various jobs she's had over her long life. She commented, "Oh, painting was agony, agony. And writing is a dawdle compared to illustrating. But kitchen gardens seemed as secret as anything with their big walls, and I longed to see what they were like." It's time for today's Unearthed Words. Today's Unearthed Words come to us from the award-winning play Proof by David Auburn. Here's a fun excerpt about calculating cold weather. Let x equal the quantity of all quantities of x. Let x equal the cold. It's cold in December. The months of cold equal November through February. There are 4 months of cold and 4 of heat, leaving 4 months of indeterminate temperature. The future of cold is infinite. The future of heat is the future of cold. The bookstores are infinite, and so are never full, except in September. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, The Winter Harvest Handbook by Eliot Coleman. This book came out in 2009, and the subtitle is Year-Round Vegetable Production Using Deep Organic Techniques and Unheated Greenhouses. In this book, Renaissance man Eliot Coleman shares his ingenuity and time-tested experience with growing and harvesting food year-round. If you're considering extending your growing season, Eliot's book is regarded as the Bible of successful winter sowing, growing, and harvesting. With the Winter Harvest Handbook, gardeners can remain active and productive even in the coldest winters using unheated or minimally heated movable plastic greenhouses. Eliot shares how to make and maintain your greenhouse, along with growing and marketing tips for over 30 different crops. This book is 264 pages of a proven model for enjoying fresh, locally grown produce all through the winter. You can get a copy of The Winter Harvest Handbook by Elliot Coleman and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $15. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day, September 14th, in 1938, that the Canadian naturalist Charles Joseph Sariel wrote in his diary about transplanting. I've read this passage many times, but never through the lens of the impact that moving has on us. Well, Charles wisely linked the two together. Here's what he wrote. I stood out on the lawn at 12:30 a.m. The valley silvered in moonlight. Could have been back in July. Moving is transplanting. And transplanting causes most plants to droop momentarily. We always feel a trifle sad about pulling up stakes. He's talking about leaving his summer cabin and returning home. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced in lovely Maple Grove and Wyoming, Minnesota. If you want to read today's show notes, just head on over to thedailygardener.org. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for my free Friday newsletter. And don't forget that you have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for listeners of the show. Just search for Daily Gardener Community the next time you're on Facebook and request to join. Last but not least, you can always get in touch by emailing me at jennifer@thedailygardener.org. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and as always, have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.